President Trump embarking on a 7-day trip to Asia tonight with several crucial meetings set up throughout the week, including a long-awaited showdown with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. Joining me now is White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly. Anna, thanks for joining us. Great to see you. It's going to be a whirlwind week. So what can we expect out of this trip from the president, his first to Asia since returning to office?
Yeah, well, let's remember last time the president made a major trip, it was to the Middle East, and he came back to the United States with $2 trillion in good deals for our country. So I think we can expect a little bit more of the same. Of course, the president is slated to travel 24 hours to Malaysia first, starting late this evening. He will get there, have bilateral meetings with the Prime Minister of Malaysia, of many other countries at the ASEAN summit. He'll also meet with leaders from Japan, South Korea. And all in all, I think Americans can expect really more good deals for our country, spanning defense, trade, economic deals, maybe even peace deals. But stay tuned.
Here is President Trump with his preview yesterday. I'm just being told that we don't have a stop. But the last thing that he did said is that when it comes to, he said, I would say we have some big issues like with farmers and various other things. But the first question I'm going to be asking, referring to Xi Jinping, asking him about is fentanyl. So top of mind for the president is this fentanyl issue. When he meets face to face with Xi Jinping in South Korea, that's going to happen on Thursday. What can we expect to take place?
Well, as the president says time and time again, he has a great relationship with Xi Jinping. And frankly, I think that's what makes this president so effective, is that he is willing to look anybody in the eye, including the Chinese president, to make good deals for our country. And at the end of the day, that is the goal, to make sure that we are leveling the playing field for American farmers, workers. And also, as you mentioned, his first question is going to be about that fentanyl issue. That is something that has long been extremely important to the president. Of course, he also hosted a Homeland Security Task Force meeting, also talking about how his whole administration is removing bureaucracy to tackle that issue. But part of that also involves stemming the flow of fentanyl precursors that come from China and come across our southern border. Of course, the president has closed the border, but part of that also involves making sure that those precursors are not coming from China. So I think there's a host of topics that they will certainly discuss. But at the end of the day, the president will leverage his deal-making skills. He is the deal maker in chief to make sure we have better deals for our country. And I think he feels quite optimistic about that.
Well, speaking of, yesterday, President Trump held this roundtable to talk about his efforts combating drug and human trafficking, including those strikes on the drug smuggling boats. And during his remarks, he said that land strikes are now on the table. Can you tell us more about what the president means by that?
Well, look, I won't get ahead of any future announcements by the president. But again, tackling the fentanyl issue, tackling the cartels issue has long been a priority for President Trump. Remember, back in 2023, the president made a promise to take on the cartels, to designate them as foreign terrorist organizations. That's exactly what he's done. As you mentioned, he hosted a task force meeting yesterday where they talked about how they have brought to justice over 3,000 foreign terrorists just since the start of this administration. So this is truly a whole of administration approach to taking on the cartels, to bringing them to justice. And ultimately, his priority is stopping the flow of this illicit narcotics to our country, which kills 100,000 Americans every year. It has to stop. And this president is prioritizing
and
that.
Finally, back to President Trump's trip to Asia. Chuck Schumer said that it's outrageous that the president will leave the country during a government shutdown while the American people are suffering. What is the White House reaction to that?
Well, Chuck Schumer also said, remember, it gets better every day for him. Of course, you had a top House Democrat yesterday talking about how struggling American families are leveraged. All of this, again, to try and get health care for millions of illegal immigrants who illegally entered our country. I think it presents a stark contrast, the fact that you have failed leaders like Chuck Schumer and others continuing to fight and keep the government closed for these illegal immigrants, while the president, in contrast, is making good deals for our country, trying to stop the influx of fentanyl and other drugs, which is exactly what he promised to do. And Chuck Schumer, if he wanted to, could open the government today and make sure that struggling families don't have to suffer anymore.
White House Deputy Press Secretary Anna Kelly, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us ahead of the president's trip to Asia. A lot of news will certainly be made. Anna Kelly, we thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.